book lovers, and welcome to NaNoWriMo 2020. Are you participating in Nano this year? I decided to participate. I was kind of not sure. It's been a crazy year. I changed apartments at work. I moved, so I'm in a new house. So it was just kind of crazy, and just in general, the year's kind of been an anxious one. So I wasn't sure if I was going to participate, but I decided that I was going to. So as I'm filming this, it's November 2nd. I think I'm also going to upload this today. So yesterday was actually the first day of NaNoWriMo, and 2020 is my 8th regular NaNoWriMo because my first one was in 2013. And I don't know what the full total is, but I've done Camp Nano in April and July a few times, maybe like somewhere between 3 and 5 times. I'm not exactly sure. So, and I've always won. So this year, we'll see. It was actually a rocky start for me. So I'm writing the 3rd book in my House of Snakes trilogy, and I haven't touched them. I haven't, I didn't refresh my memory and read up on where I left things off, so I don't even really know what plot lines. I mean, I kind of know, but it's been a while, so I've forgotten. And so I have to determine like what plot lines and stuff I want to, continue, and that I need to tie up and close off or whatever, because this is the final book. So I decided that I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. And that kind of got me thinking about what video I could post about NaNoWriMo. I will have a bookish video for you. I think I have maybe 150 to 200 pages left in A Discovery of Witches, which I am really enjoying. And so you can expect a video for that probably this month as well. But I was thinking, what could I offer up for NaNoWriMo? If you follow my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. There are videos about NaNoWriMo on this channel. I even have a time-lapse video, I think, where I recorded something every day, maybe? I can't remember. But like I said, this is my 8th one, so I've been kind of doing this for a while. And I was trying to think of 3 tips that I could give to you, whether it's your first Nano or not your first Nano. And they're tips that I need to take for myself as well, because like I said, yesterday I got off to a rough start. I tried to write during the morning. I only got about 300 words out, and if you don't know, NaNoWriMo is 1,667 words a day for all 30 days of November. So needless to say, it wasn't off to a great start, but I had some family over, we had dinner. After they left in the evening, I sat down and wrote, and I hit like 1,700 words and some change. So it ended up okay, but it didn't start out okay necessarily. So I thought, what 3 tips could I give to people having done NaNoWriMo 8 times? And the first tip that I always like to give is to just write. Don't edit, don't go back and reread what you wrote, just write at this point. Because at this stage, the most important thing is to just get the words on the page. The hardest part is actually writing the novel, right? That is what trips so many people up from ever doing it in the first place, is to get all those words out onto the pages. You could get hung up for years if you get, to the editing, you go back and are editing what you have already written. You can never get past that hump, because you can write total nonsense, and as long as you are writing, you can go back and fix that later. So my first piece of advice is to just write. Don't double check it. Don't even fact check at this stage. I mean, I do that a little bit, but if I see myself getting hung up on it, I'll stop, and maybe I'll just highlight that section so I know later to go back and check it. Because once you have a finished product, an actual manuscript in hand, you can pretty much go anywhere at that point. So my first piece of advice is to just write, which leads me to my second piece of advice, and that is, if you're reaching a point where you're kind of struggling, then I recommend either introducing a new character, introducing a new place, and just not, just going from there. Because even if it's totally wackadoo and maybe it's a character you might cut later or a scene you might cut later, at least it got you from point A to point B. because sometimes we can't get there in a straight line. Sometimes we need to take some detours to figure out where the story needs to go, what growth our characters need, what plot points need to happen to propel the story forward. So sometimes introducing a new element can stimulate some creativity to help you keep going. Even if it doesn't make sense at that time, it could either make sense later or get you to the place that makes sense, and then you can get rid of it later when you go back to the editing stage after November 30th. My third piece of advice is to leave yourself with a cliffhanger at the end of each day that you're writing. Don't end your writing for the day at a nice tidy point, because for me, I find that much more difficult to come into the next day. I would rather almost leave myself off at a cliffhanger point or in the middle of action so that I can come back in the next day and get to writing right away without thinking of what I need to happen or where things need to go, because I kind of already set that up for myself the previous day. Granted, this tip is kind of more or less a nano only tip where you're trying to hit a certain word count every day, and if you're trying to write every day, I'm sure there are people who maybe write a whole bunch of words the first day, maybe they take 2 days off and then come in, or maybe they just write a bunch every day. I don't know other people's nano styles. I tend to be a very solitary writer. I do talk to one of my friends about nano to see, because she usually is participating as well. But other than that, I'm a very solitary writer. I really don't like to, I don't know, I guess I just don't like to talk about my story with other people really. And I don't really like to have other people read it. I like to have my family read it, but I don't like to have outside people read it, at least in like these early stages and in the editing stages and stuff like that. So that's my third piece of advice, is to leave yourself some morsels, to pick up the next day, so that when you start writing, you can start like right off the bat and not have to think about, okay, well, they're driving and nothing's really happening, and now what do I do with the story? Right? Have them get right to that destination and maybe open the door. And then you can have something good, you can have your wheels turning and all that non-writing time to start the next day with something fresh. And I have a bonus tip for you. My bonus tip is to know your habits. And that is what happened to me yesterday. So Nano revamped their site, I think last year, and now they kind of track your habits if you fill in the data for when do you usually write. And I tend to be a night owl. I tend to write, between the hours of 8 and 9 p.m., kind of before getting ready for bed or whatever, and after dinner, after everything is done, after I've exercise and all of that kind of stuff. And I tried to write earlier yesterday because I knew my family was coming over, and for some reason that's just not the time for me to write. And why force myself to do something? I'd rather stay up a little bit later. I'm blessed enough to be able to work from home during all of this since March and continuing into 2021 at this point. So I can sleep in. I don't have a commute. I don't have to, do certain things in the morning anymore. So I can stay up a little bit later if I need to get my daily word count in. So know your habits. And I also like to listen to instrumental music. Usually I like to listen to, if you look on YouTube for epic playlists is kind of what I usually like to listen to. It's kind of cinematic sounding. So I don't really write well with the TV. I can have the TV on, but I can't have the sound on when I write. So that's just something else to consider. So I guess that's all I have for you. To review, the 3 tips that I have for you were to, I already forgot. The first one was to just write. The second is to add in a new character or a new setting to help propel your writing forward. The third tip was to leave yourself some morsels and some tidbits to start the next day with. Don't just end at a nice tidy point. Actually end in the middle of the action so that you have a good starting point for the next day when trying to hit a certain word count. That might not necessarily be true for writing in general. Maybe it is. I've pretty much always written under a time constraint I usually give myself a month to 2 months to write a novel. It doesn't usually go on and on for years. At that point, I'm in the editing stage. And then the extra tidbit was to, know your habits and don't try and force yourself into, something that doesn't work for you. My creative brain works best at night, so it's really difficult for me. It might take me twice as long, 3 times as long to try and write during the daytime. So why not work with what you know works for you, essentially. So I hope you found this nano video useful. Like I said, you can expect a Discovery of Witches review probably later this month. I don't think I'm going to do regular nano videos, but I do plan to do like a mid-month check-in and then a wrap-up for nano at the end of the month, so you can expect a couple more videos for that. If you're interested in more nano videos, you can check out the other ones on this channel. Like I said, I've been doing NaNoWriMo since 2013, so I have a few, 50,000 word counts in 30 days under my belt, so you can check those videos out for additional tips and insights on NaNoWriMo. In the meanwhile, happy reading and happy